Good day and welcome to Rocket with Chief. I'm your host, Daniel Robus, and today I'm immensely proud to have a friend of mine on, Chris Williamson, MD at Vodacom MPESA, chair of Loowatt. We're going to get into that in a moment. Alumni of some great institutes of learning. We're going to get into that as well. And a son of England. With the rate of middle to senior management that is exiting the African continent, it's wonderful for me to know and meet leaders who have traveled here to learn, to teach, and to live. Chris, be welcome as MD of a very well-known company in South Africa. How has it changed in the past few years for you? Let's start with that.
Thanks, Daniel, and thank you so much for having me on the show. It's awesome to be here, and looking forward to the discussion. I've been part of M-Pesa for 7 or 8 years, and mobile money for longer than that, almost since it started in Kenya in 2007. But even just in the time that I've been here in Joburg in this current role, which is about 4 years now, things have changed hugely. I think firstly in terms of the scale of the M-Pesa business, and it's probably echoed in other businesses like it, mobile wallets around Africa. When I joined, we were just over 10% of Vodacom's revenue outside South Africa. We had something like 11 million customers. Today, we're well over 20% of Vodacom's revenue outside South Africa, and we have something like 18 million customers in the 5 markets that I look after. So the scale has just really been accelerating tremendously, even through some of the challenges we've had with things like COVID and some regulatory challenges and surprises which tend to come up in our markets. But beyond just the scale and the kind of revenue contribution, I think organizationally we're transforming. When I joined, it was very federated. Every country sort of was doing their own thing, and to a large extent had their own priorities, strategy, product roadmap. We set up a joint venture just over a year ago with Safaricom, which is kind of Vodacom's sister company. You know, we own about a third of Safaricom, so we're the big shareholder, but it's not a subsidiary. So we set up a joint venture with them. Obviously, you know, you might have heard about the scale and the success of that Safaricom's had with M-Pesa in Kenya, still the biggest market with almost 30 million active customers. But we really wanted to sort of align and actually build one platform and one organization. Our slogan is One M-Pesa, and that's really what we've driven. So we have this joint venture now, which is actually headquartered in Nairobi, and going really well, where we have big teams of developers and product managers, engineers, building the next generation M-Pesa platform, and also, you know, through things like a single API, signing up partners. So it's one integration for everywhere, not sort of a separate conversation for Lesotho and DRC and Tanzania. So organizationally, and I think also, I guess in terms of the way the platform has evolved, as I've said, not just the organization, but also the platform is becoming more and more converged. You know, one API for everywhere. Building everything new on the cloud rather than in local silos. So it's a big transformation, and it's exciting to be part of it.
How do you keep the One M-Pesa culture when you've got so many distributed workstations? And with your expansion plans around the world, are you going to keep an African flavor?
Absolutely. I think I'll answer the second bit first. You know, we've had over the years, when I joined M-Pesa, we had operations in Romania, Albania, India, even South Africa, if you remember. And it didn't work out everywhere. The markets where M-Pesa's been incredibly successful, and it's not just Kenya, we're now the biggest financial services player in 5 or 6 countries by customer base. And those markets, they're all in sub-Saharan Africa. They're all markets that had relatively low banking penetration on the lower end of GDP per capita. And we're really excited about Ethiopia. You may have heard Safaricom Ethiopia is up and running, and we'll be launching M-Pesa there soon, hopefully. So and there are other markets on the roadmap, but I'd say Africa is very much the focus.
Outstanding.
But in terms of being one M-Pesa, I know it's I can talk about platform and org structures and reporting lines and budgets, but actually it's more about culture and trust and people working together. And to be honest, it's been tough the last 2 years as we've been driving this one M-Pesa transformation. We've had coronavirus and we haven't been able to travel.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. We're assembling the whole leadership team in Nairobi in exactly a month from now. We'll all be there. And so it's those kind of things that we've missed. But I think, that we've been able to get a lot done, even through this kind of virtual relationship building we've been doing.
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit about that, but a segue. I absolutely love the vibe in Nairobi. It just seems to be a hub of innovation and positivity. It just radiates positivity. So good luck for that.
Thanks. Yeah, we love it too. I miss it.
So left field question. How different was it from where you grew up to what you see in South Africa now? How different is life for you here?
Well, as an Englishman, I kind of have to talk about the weather when you ask me that, don't I? But I always, in a way, I count myself lucky with the English weather, because I think if you grow up with bad weather, then anywhere you go is upside. Like the idea, I see people here walking around in jumpers and stuff, and it makes me laugh, because there's never been a cold day in Joburg,
never,
as far as I'm concerned.
So you and your family have a love for Africa, which is clear to anyone who gets to know you for more than 10 minutes. Why has the dust of Africa infected you so much?
Well, I think it goes back, it's not like I had some travel experience and had this like romantic experience of Africa or something. Yeah. I think it goes more back to my roots. I grew up in a sort of good middle-class home with great family and a sense of like I guess sort of a culture of like servant leadership in my family history. And I grew up, I think, with a sense of real like privilege. Not we weren't super wealthy, but we just had what we needed, and I was loved, and I had a good education and everything. And I saw people around me. Some of the kids I grew up with are in prison. I grew up in Nottingham, which is kind of was a bit rough around where I was in parts. And I guess, I don't know, I grew up with seeing this sense also of globalization and it being someone privileged in this world where there's a huge amount of injustice and a lot of people who are suffering not through any fault of their own and in very much harder circumstances than my own. But in the UK, you see that is there's absolutely suffering and poverty in the UK. Not so much financial, but social poverty, I would say. But you also grow up with a sense of like my shoes have been made in a sweatshop somewhere, and I can't see who did it, who made them. This sense of disconnection, and I think South Africa obviously has some tragedy in its past, right? And you can't understand this country without reading about and understanding its history. For me as an outsider, that's essential. But the UK has also had its dirty past and its injustices that it's committed and everything. So my wife and I met over this connection of like, how do we use our privilege and our education and our I guess all the assets that we have to do something meaningful. And I always was excited about business more than anything else, but I wanted to find a way to build businesses that didn't just make shiny stuff that people could consume and get addicted to, and or just kind of more consumerist kind of stuff. I really wanted to build businesses that made things that would actually be tools for people who've experienced injustice or just not been as privileged as I have to actually make their lives better. I read a book about 12 years ago called The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid, which was by an Indian business school professor who's passed away, C.K. Prahalad. But just looking at the opportunities for businesses to innovate for low-income consumers in the emerging markets. And, it talked about things like Hindustan Lever making like single-use soap sachets and stuff. But a lot of it was just about how underserved the emerging markets are, and particularly the lower-income consumers. And, they're paying more for their groceries than we are because there aren't big supermarkets in those areas. So, yeah, I think it was that sense of like looking for purpose and looking for a place where I could contribute that led my wife and I to Africa.
Sure.
Yeah, so we moved to Cape Town in 2007. I worked with a bunch of venture capitalists for a while, did some entrepreneurial stuff that was going great and then blew up and failed. Did an MBA, but stayed then after that.
As you do.
Yeah. Exactly. Became MBA mediocre but arrogant.
Yeah.
And stayed in London for a few years, but very much working in emerging markets, mostly in Africa.
Wow.
So then last 4 years I've been back in Joburg, back in South Africa, where I love it and feel very, very much at home here. It's like my second. I feel like I've been adopted here, which is amazing.
I'm glad. What's your favorite holiday destination on the continent?
On the continent, wow. Probably. I mean, we've been going the last couple of Christmases to Kommetjie in Cape Town.
Hey, shout out to the cold water.
Yeah. Well, for us, it's quite warm, you know.
Kommetjie is beautiful. For anyone who's listening outside of the South Africa or the continent, Kommetjie is just a small village in Cape Town, which is almost untouched by the outside world. I call it the home of the no credit card. MPESA has a big play there.
Yeah, we could launch there. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Right, you've exposed, you get exposure to the entire continent, and you see so many technological innovations and advancements. What excites you for 2022 that's coming out of your area?
Yeah, I mean, I meet so many people who are in the crypto space now here, and there's huge excitement about that. But to be honest, for me, it's a lot of the old technologies, or to us they seem old, that really are just starting to get a grip in the markets where we operate. So, you know, apps, smartphones, you know, smartphone penetration is about 50% now in our markets.
Wow.
But a lot of customers have a smartphone and they're not yet actually using apps. And our customers, you know, M-Pesa was launched in 2007, 2008 onwards, and was for people with any, you know, basic kind of feature phones, and it works on a USSD text-based menu. But our customers, like, USSD menus are muscle memory for them. They don't. If someone sends someone an M-Pesa P2P transfer, they don't think about like dialing *151#, whatever it is. It just happens, you know. It's like complete muscle memory. So actually, you know, apps. We have an amazing app now, which we are evolving into a super app for our consumers and our agents and our merchants. So we're really excited about that, and also really educating our customers about the benefits of using apps. And I think a super app is, you've probably seen, you know, in China, the likes of Alipay and WeChat Pay, and here in South Africa, we've launched Vodapay, which is a great super app, and we've actually partnered with Ant Financial, a parent of Alipay, to do that in terms of software. But we're doing the same kind of strategy in M-Pesa now, and we're launching, you know, our app is evolving into a super app. And I think for our customers, that means they don't need to download like 20 different apps for different things. They can just download the M-Pesa app, and then that's their sort of gateway to basically digitizing their life and accessing the kind of benefits that we all take for granted through our smartphones.
That's amazing. That is amazing. This technological revolution has been going on for a couple of years. It's been accelerated by cell phones. Digital access is getting more and more. What does that mean for a leader today? How do we have to evolve our leadership style to take advantage of this?
Yeah, I guess I think in terms of innovation, if I remember back to business school, you know, two forms of innovation, like technology innovation and business model innovation, right? And of course, there's some amazing technology innovation happening at the moment, especially in the fintech space. And I think of things like central bank digital currencies, which are launching now. We've got it in Nigeria, it's coming in Kenya and other markets. And that's gonna change things. But I'm actually personally more excited about just business model innovation and using existing tech to solve customer needs that people haven't tried to solve before. And I just think when you look at the mass market in Africa, there's still so many unsolved needs. And I think we're seeing, so I think in leadership, in my area, in my kind of domain anyway, it's about just staying close to customers. I think the biggest danger is spending your life in boardrooms and Zoom calls and internal stuff taking over your life, and actually spending time in market, seeing customers, looking closely at customer behavioral data, so you can spot needs that haven't been served. And then keeping an open mind. I feel like I still see a lot of cookie cuttering going on in our markets, where a lot of players are just, trying to compete by doing the same thing as everyone else, maybe a bit cheaper or a bit faster or whatever. But I think the players that really win are the ones like M-Pesa did originally. We came up with something completely different and innovative. And I think, we're seeing today like a wave of African unicorns emerging where, I can name many businesses now that have raised more than $100 million in Africa. That wasn't true 2 years ago. I couldn't think of any 2 years ago. Now there's many. So I think we're seeing a wave of businesses that are starting to do this, but few of them are really doing tech innovation. They're more doing just business model innovation to serve, whether it's consumers or micro enterprises, helping them grow their business.
I love that. So we don't have to rely on the technology. We can actually adapt what we've got and just be smarter about getting to the customer. That's really good. Chris, you are a leader in your own right, and you're teaching and mentoring, but who do you look to as a role model in your work life?
So I think, I've had a number of different professional kind of mentors over the years. In the last year, I've been able to meet and get to know a guy called Nick Hughes, who is not anything like as well known as I think he should be. He's actually the guy who invented M-Pesa. He came up with the idea, or something close to it, in about 2003 in London at Vodafone Group. Got some internal and external grant funding to explore it. Took it to Kenya, experimented, tweaked it, found a model that was working, launched it in 2007. And, since then, we have more than 50 million M-Pesa customers now. But much more than that, mobile money services just like M-Pesa are alive now in more than 90 countries in the world. And it's the way that financial inclusion has expanded far more than any other change in the industry. It's been the emergence of mobile money in Africa and Asia, and to some extent Latin America. So Nick is a guy who's really changed the world. But when you meet him, he's he's a very 360 leader. He came from actually a corporate social responsibility background, but with a good MBA. He moved into commercial roles and kind of strategy, getting M-Pesa up and running. Since then, he launched a startup called M-Copa, which has also been phenomenally successful and disruptive, doing solar powered phone charging and lighting and radio and stuff for millions of households in Africa. But then since then he's become more of a venture capital investor. So he's very rounded, he's very broad. But the thing that really strikes me when you meet someone like Nick is his humility and his willingness to help and engage. And I've seen him helping people from who are quite junior in their careers to kind of get started in that kind of arena. So he's someone who really inspires me, and I've been getting to know, and I hope to get to know better over the years. But I'd say actually probably some of my most meaningful work mentors have been completely outside the workplace. They've been more like church leaders that I've had over the years, or people I've met in other spheres who aren't necessarily at all well known, but just people are great leaders who really have the right heart and the right attitude in what they do, and are seeking to serve, and are courageous, and willing to give everything they've got to make things that matter happen.
You have to be brave to lead in these changing times, don't you? And you have to be principled. That's what people are looking to us for.
Absolutely.
The world in the last 2 years has been shaken, shook, changed. Everything's evolved. We are now moving into a new world, where you almost came and had this interview with me, which says to me that we've moved on from where we were. What's on your whiteboard that you're dealing with that wasn't there 6 months ago?
Well, for me personally, Daniel, it's actually looking at as we're planning to move back to the UK. As we
What the?
Sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Does that spoil
we're ending this
we can cut that.
We're ending this interview.
We love Africa, but we also love our family, and we have really close family who are all in the UK. We have no South African history or relations. So with 4 young children, we feel like it's time for them to get lots of time with their grandparents and their aunts and uncles. So we're excited to move back, but very sad to leave as well. So that, for me personally, that's a big thing. And that, transition is difficult, also exciting. So it's that kind of sense of an unknown adventure, which is scary, but cool. Yeah, but I think then professionally, what's on my whiteboard is just this incredible wave of investment into African fintech business.
Okay.
I had dinner last night in Parkhurst with some guys who are over from Uruguay. And one of them is a guy who's in his 20s. I'm not going to name names or company, but he's a billionaire. He's the founder of Uruguay's first and only tech unicorn. And it's entirely focused on emerging markets, LATAM and Africa, and doing, it's in the payment space. And, he's had hundreds of millions of dollars of investment. I know, CEOs of a few other businesses who've in the last year raised hundreds of millions. And so I think it's changing the game. As a business like Vodacom, we're a big telecoms business. Our shareholders look to us to produce a good dividend, and we absolutely invest in the future, but we do it in a fairly kind of, how are we going to monetize this? How are we going to ensure we have a sustainable business model kind of a way? But some of the new players coming into Africa with big Silicon Valley funded checkbooks, they're not thinking at all about profitability and revenue. They're thinking, how do we come in and offer customers something really great, really niche, and really get millions and millions of customers on board. I look at businesses like Wave in West Africa. Wave really only launched in the last year or two, and they've just come in with a mobile money, e-money license, but been incredibly disruptive and dropped prices radically. They've taken market share rapidly. And they're raising more and more money. They're not going to be profitable for a long time. I don't see how they have a sustainable model. They got the customers and the investors like it, and they'll keep investing. So it's changing the game. I think it's, for us, it's scary, but it's exciting because we're raising our game to that kind of approach and changing the way we invest. So we've radically increased our investment in R&D over the last couple of years.
That's amazing. Where do you self-educate? Podcast, book, movie?
Great question. I've really loved doing online courses. And that's something my wife and I both have started doing through lockdown. Like I did a fintech course last year through Oxford University's business school, entirely online for 6 weeks. And it was just phenomenal. And actually, I think that way of learning where, it's not like full time, you're still working, but half a day a week, you're immersing yourself in reading and watching videos and interviews and then doing work projects with a little team. It was just brilliant. And I felt like that really brought me up to speed on a lot of the kind of cutting edge stuff that's happening in fintech at the moment. But I sort of also really think, reading, watching movies can be just something that sucks time and is a way of chilling. But if you're intentional about it, can change your life. I think last year we were really impacted by Black Lives Matter and by everything that happened. I think I had a moment of realization when one of my close friends just told me how he was feeling about it. And I saw the way it was affecting him psychologically. And I realized, wow, I just have, I'm a privileged white guy. I have no understanding of what it's like to be a person of color or a female, actually. And so we had a season of, we basically would only watch films that were would teach us something and give us a different perspective about race and what it means to come from the other side. And that was quite, I wouldn't quite say life-changing, but it definitely I think shifted a bit of our perspective and hopefully gave us a little more empathy and understanding. So I think if you're mindful about what you're watching and reading, it can or listening to, it can really change your life.
What you put in is what comes out, isn't it? It really impacts us. You are in tech. You have a very busy life. What are the 3 tech productivity hacks that keep you ahead of the game?
Oh man, just one springs to mind actually. So
Okay.
I don't know, I recently did this thing called an Enneagram. I don't know if you've heard of it,
Yes,
Dan.
yes.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people here who are getting their Enneagrams done, and it was great. And I'm like a kind of visionary kind of person. That was what came out of my Enneagram. And growing up and through my early career, actually, I was not organized, like a typical visionary where we like to think about the future and dream up ideas and strategies, but we don't like to finish things and organize things and get stuff done.
Yeah.
And I drove my wife crazy. I was the guy that never paid a gas bill, that never remembered birthdays,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. When I was living in Cape Town in about 10 years ago, I read this book that was recommended to me called Getting Things Done.
Okay.
I think it's not, it was very trendy at the time. It's not so
Yes.
trendy now, but that literally changed my life. If you're a visionary like me, or if you're just someone who struggles to actually organize your life and to manage all these different inboxes and competing demands, and you forget about it, read the book. It's basically, it gives you a system. Yeah, it's the idea is basically you want to be able to work like a ninja, like Zen, like focus, without having to hold tasks in your brain. So the key is to have a system outside of your brain where you organize your whole life and all of your tasks and inboxes and projects. And that's what I've done. I use an app to do it, but you can do it on a piece of paper. It's not really a tech tool. But it's, I won't go into the detail, but it's really, really changed my wife. So it's changed my wife and it's changed my life. My wife as well. Yeah, my wife is, she's now frustrated because I do things before I've even talked to her about it. I kind of,
it's done.
Too organized.
So you meet a lot of industry leaders. What do you think is the one thing everybody in your industry should stop or start doing?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Do you know what? In my industry, I think we need, and in African tech businesses, I think we need to really get to the next level. I think we need to stop thinking about product lines and how we monetize every product, and have a business model where everything we do makes money. But I think we need to rather think like the big tech companies do, this term, a multi-sided platform like Google or Facebook or Amazon, where you offer a huge amount of value for free, and then you look for an area like with Google and Facebook's advertising where they monetize and dominate and make billions. I think
just let me interrupt there. Is that not because you've got the money? Have you forgotten what it's like to bootstrap, maybe, that you can make a statement like that?
Maybe, but I mean, I see the fintech companies that are emerging now and other tech startups, that's their mentality. Like I was saying before, they're not necessarily trying to make money in the first couple of years. And investors are now there to support those kind of business models in Africa. They weren't a few years ago. So I think now you can get a balance sheet to go and build that kind of a business, if you can pitch it well. And I just think, it's ultimately, it's about working out how to build like a network where you have different people coming together through your platform, and some of those users of your platform, the best thing is to make it completely free for them, so that they use it more and more, and then that attracts other users. So I think I don't know, I don't want to go into details of how that's sort of impacting on our strategy, but it's like
no but
a different mentality.
There's wisdom there, but it's hard wisdom for startups. I think it's hard. Sure. And then I mean, we can chat about it later. The last 10 years have been up and down for you, more ups than downs. You've had children, you've moved continents, your work has gone up. What's the one mistake that you've made where you would love to have had a do-over, apart from meeting me?
Oh, wow. Sure. I mean, probably if I go back like to when I was in Cape Town and I joined the management team, this company called Cytec, which no one's probably heard of now. But at the time, Cytec had pioneered like community payphones. You may remember, I don't know, the townships were a few years ago full of shipping containers, branded Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, and those shipping containers were full of community payphones. And these were like mobile phones, but designed for multiple users. And whoever owned the shipping container could make a kind of a business from it. It was like a business in a box was the term we used. And I joined the company to try and build a new kind of a business in the box, which is basically, it was a product called Streetwise, but it's like an internet cafe in a box. So low cost units would run off a car battery for a week. So you didn't need to have mains power. We had a content server that skimmed big, bulky, data intensive internet content down to text that we could then send through basic 2G, Edge and GPRS data. So the idea was this is like a cheap, low cost internet cafe in a box that you could deploy into a rural area in a country like South Africa without good power, without good data connectivity, and it would still work, and people could come and they could read the football scores, they could send emails, they could read Wikipedia, or we actually had a partnership with Naspers Group to access a whole ton of amazing content. And we were quite close to, we piloted it, we were quite close to launching. We made a lot of technology decisions which turned out to be the wrong decisions to do with our software architecture. I hadn't got a clue about, I mean, funny, I studied engineering, but I went straight into business. I didn't have a clue about software at the time. So made a lot of bad decisions. I think we also tried to do too many things. We kind of had in mind like a school market, an educational market, an entrepreneur market, for it to be a paid service, like a B2B2C model. And other things, refugee camps we were looking at. We just tried to design a product that was too many things to too many people with the wrong architecture. And what happened was that actually the core business we were part of collapsed for various reasons and got broken up. Part of it, Kazang, is still around, and that's now one of the biggest prepaid distributors in the country. But the rest of the business really has disappeared, which is really sad. And the guys who started that business were amazing. And it shocked me. I saw at the time I joined, we had about $30 million turnover, a few hundred employees. It looked pretty invulnerable. And every year we were growing massively. So it was really a lesson in you never be complacent. You're always vulnerable. Things can go wrong quickly, and don't bet on too many different things. I mean, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. But if you try and be everything to everyone and you don't invest properly in the things you're doing and do them the right way, then you'll end up with nothing to show for it.
Wow, that is such a mic drop moment. It almost allows me to let you off the hook and go, because I think there's so many lessons in there. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. I see two guitars behind you, and just for everyone who doesn't know you, Chris is one of the finest guitarists that I know. A John Mayer fan, and he likes to show me how I can never catch up. But if you had to talk to someone looking to follow in your leadership footsteps, what would you say are the critical ingredients of success? Bearing in mind you 2/3 into the career and where you are, what would you say what's the 3-step Chris Williamson path to the success?
I'd talk about passion. I meet too many people who are in business who are, by different metrics, job title or salary or whatever, successful, who, when I talk to them about their work, I don't see excitement. I don't see real passion. Okay. I see more like I'm just doing what I think I need to be doing because I can't think of something better to do. For me, like the secret of my whatever success I've had has been that passion and that sense of really finding my purpose and the reason why God put me on the planet. And I think that took some exploration. I did some pretty silly career things when I was younger. I jumped around. I jumped out of jobs where I was on a good career ladder and would probably could be much more better paid than I am now if I'd stayed in my first job as a strategy consultant for a bit longer. But you know, what I did was jumped around. I moved around the world and found, I guess, chased my dream and found a way that I could actually contribute in a way that I was excited about. But then if it's just passion and chasing dreams without grit and determination and commitment, then that's also a recipe for not getting anywhere. So I think it's then following through on that, like finding something you're really passionate about and willing to, my granddad always said, find a job that you'd be willing to do for free. You know, I think that describes the kind of passion you need. It can't just be about the income. It's got to be about the outcome. So
I love that.
But then once you found that thing, then dig deep, knuckle down, find a way of then getting, you know, be strategic, think about the steps you need to take to build it over the long term. You know, I really believe that thing, you know, you can achieve, I forget the wording, but, you know, we achieve less than we think we can in 1 or 2 years, but we can achieve much more than we think we can in a few years. So knuckle down and commit and commit and commit, and then get through the days when you don't feel excited about it anymore, because, you know, you just got to remember you're in the right place, and you've got to keep driving and working at it.
Love it. My last question for you. I was going to ask you one question you wish that I'd asked that I haven't, but I'm going to change that. If you were writing a farewell card to Africa for when you and your lovely family go back to the UK, what would the opening lines be?
Oh man, you do this so much better than I would, Daniel. Wow. Just thank you for making, I don't know, for everything you've taught me. You know, I love it here. I love the people. I love the culture, the diversity, the way when things come together in this country, when people come together from all their different backgrounds, and the incredible pain of the past, when people in this country overcome that and come together and make things happen together, it's a truly beautiful thing. And I'll be forever grateful, not just that I've been part of that and seen that, but that my children, you know, they're in classes with people from all kinds of different cultures and backgrounds, and they've been shaped by that, and they'll never forget it. So I don't know, I'm not very eloquent, but something like that.
That was awesome. Chris Williamson, what a privilege to have you with us. Thank you so much. Thank you for the leadership and direction that you've given to us and to your young team that you've built up. And I'm sure they're excited to see where you're going to be going from here and how you're going to carry on influencing their lives. And thank you for everything that you continue to do in South Africa and making Johannesburg a better place. It is the greatest city in the world because I live here, but it's also part of South Africa, and it's in our veins. And they say once the dust of Africa has got on your shoes, it never goes away. So we are going to keep you as an adopted son of Africa, and hopefully you'll be making frequent trips back here. But from my side, really, I learned a lot. I hope you have a wonderful day further. And from Daniel at Rocket, have a lekker day.
Thank you so much, Daniel. It's been amazing to talk to you this morning.